Cvetkovic from PwC, Audit Director.
Thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, and dear Mr. Tomokos, thank you for organizing this wonderful event where we can exchange views on very important topics. And today, from the perspective of the global leader in professional services, from the perspective of PwC, I would like to spend a couple of minutes of your time to basically give you a little bit of the overview of the infrastructure development on a global scale, and to basically give it in a perspective of what can Serbia benefit from the infrastructure being on the rise and being a very important global topic, and with all the changes which are now occurring in industry and infrastructure sector, to give you a little bit of the flavor, what are the lessons and what we can learn and better implement in the context of Serbian economy. So to start maybe with a little bit of the good news. Infrastructure is on the rise, and this is really a global trend. $4.5 trillion a year is going to be invested in infrastructure on a global scale in the next 5-year period, and it is going to be increased even beyond 2020. So really investment in infrastructure is huge, it is rising, and according to some estimations of the IMF, $1 spent in infrastructure investment is actually gaining $3 in GDP. So what remains as key questions, and this is now a little bit of the perspective for Serbia also, where will this money go? Who will be sort of the benefits of these projects? What are the policymakers' likely priorities, and where should this money be directed? And of course, where are the opportunities? But then again, also what is the challenges, and especially in the context of disruptive technology, in changes in markets and the sustainability issues, commodity shifts. So it is very many topics which really affect the development in the infrastructure. So that is something which I would like to bring your attention to. And of course, all this in a context of trying to position Serbia to give it a little bit of a better absorption of the infrastructure investment, which definitely is there. So maybe to start from 5 big themes that we in PwC have concluded will be guiding the global infrastructure investment. First one, and I think it's very relevant, is that investors worldwide are broadening their horizons. You see these days not only pension and sovereign wealth funds investing heavily in infrastructure, but also you have unregulated infrastructure funds which are really growing their demand. Supply and demand is such that matured markets such as Western Europe and others, which offer regulated environment for infrastructure projects, have sort of dried out, and the money which is available for infrastructure project is now searching beyond that. So emerging markets, and our markets in CE especially, in Serbia in particular, I think can really benefit from this. So demand growth is beyond development markets, and the size of funds available for financing infrastructure has grown in the last decade from 25 billion to 400 billion globally. There is currently 100 billion cash available for financing infrastructure. So I think this is really, really relevant. And in the Serbian context, I think the relevance is such that Serbia has increased visibility with these kind of investors. So they are more and more looking and seeing what is availability of projects in Serbia. Sometimes we need a little bit of the size, so it is very important that we have projects such as the one that Mr. Vesic was mentioning for the city of Belgrade, which really do increase the visibility of Serbia. So Belgrade is pretty much leading on that. But in decreasing the country risk and also having the IFIs serving pretty much as a catalytic role, I think that's very relevant for Serbia. So thank you also EBRD, IFC, and others who are EIB, who are helping Serbia position themselves with regards to the investment appetite for infrastructure. Another big theme that I think is very relevant is the political leadership, which is quite relevant for the infrastructure. and ambitious goals. You have witnessed that in the last couple of months there have been elections won basically on the promise that more money will be spent in infrastructure. And it is rightfully so, because infrastructure investments are actually a tool to spread the wealth towards a little bit wider population. And it is an elector winning proposition. So in the context of Serbia, I think this is also relevant, that it is visible that the government has spent a lot of effort and made a lot of progress in infrastructure development. You see improvement is in EPC management. Then again, you still have a lack of non-recourse project, but there is also a good track record of lessons learned from other countries. So if you would, for example, now speak with Hungary, they would say, don't go into PPPs, it's difficult, it costs a lot of money, it goes to the taxpayer. But then again, Czech, Slovak and Polish experiences are quite the contrary. So it is really very many experiences, and I think Serbia should benefit from these experiences throughout the region. On the other hand, I think the government definitely needs capacity building in this area, and it is also improving. But going forward, it is sort of a HR issue for the government, but then again, good preparation of the project, I think, is very vital and crucial. Another big theme, which is basically the nature of infrastructure investment. Every infrastructure is typically 30+ years of utilization. And when you put it in a context of global trends, and especially the trends that are disrupting now the typical business models, you need to be very careful as to how to structure the investment. So basically urbanization, which is very, very hot topic, a very big trend, then trends with renewables, all this put these projects in a context of needing to get both in the core infrastructure and in social infrastructure to be very carefully prepared. For example, for the big cities, it will be very, very relevant to go into the utilities management, as the urbanization is a growing trend. So this is also a very, very relevant topic to put things in a perspective of 30 years. A few more topics, which are actually the big themes, is sustainable infrastructure for a long term. How expensive is actually to build on a sustainable level? Do we really spend money into building facilities which are green, and how much does it cost in a short as compared to long-term run? For example, some estimation is that transition from coal, which is pretty much now banned from investment, is going to cost Serbia over whatever horizon it's going to be, roughly to transit from coal to renewables, roughly in the range of 5 billion euros. So this is really something which needs to be taken care, and this is a very big theme. And one more, just to mention, it's the fact that societies and economies are now trying to get away a little bit from the commodities-driven economy, and infrastructure is really the tool which can promise this development on a more sustainable basis. So these big themes, how to basically transit them to what is the Serbian context. The good, as I said, the good news is that we can really definitely catch the big wave of interest for infrastructure investment. And to put it in a context of regional initiatives, which was also mentioned by the Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Mihajlović, there is a very relevant Western Balkan 6 initiative, which is the connectivity agenda. And it actually is the regional approach to investing in roads and other infrastructure, because our countries in the region are pretty small, and we cannot build roads unless they really lead to another road in another country. So that is a hardware topic, but the software is the soft measures. We need to really increase the customs and other measures so that the flow of goods and services can be much better. So this is something which the EU is helping us. There have been several instances of meetings with the political influence to drive this agenda a little bit further. And what is also relevant in this perspective is that CE as a region, it has a strong infrastructure growth in perspective as compared to core EU countries, which is 3.1% in a 5-year horizon over 2.3. So this is also relevant for Serbia. I think also what is relevant for Serbia is that construction companies are becoming more global, easier transfer of technology. So basically, we do have availability to deploy the latest technology in spite of the previous attempts to maybe go with some other solutions. Another thing which I think is worth mentioning is the trend going from EPC, which is now the prevailing model of infrastructure investment, into build, operate, and transfer, which is mostly the PPP. For PPPs, as I said, it is now the second generation of infrastructure investment, and in Serbia it is very relevant that we go and continue on this path with the projects that have been started as a properly prepared project. Learning curve is there. I think the experience from the CE is such that we can now benefit from all the good experience. Preparation of the project is very crucial. To that extent, I think well-prepared projects, they really can outstand even and are very immune to the political cycles. And basically, I think what Danny also mentioned here in his presentation is that IFCs are very helpful to that extent, and basically they're helping the capacity build to improve the capacity of PPP authority. We'll need to improve a little bit the Ministry of Finance Capital Project assessment also. These are all relevant topics for Serbia, but definitely the good message is that infrastructure investors are there, opportunities and projects are vast, and basically Serbia has a lot of promising projects to that extent, and I think this is something which I believe is going to be relevant for us in the next decades. Thank you very much.